All right, all you devils out there, Sam here with you. Friday the 20th, just at about 1 o'clock here. Of course, we'll do our update on Bitcoin. And I'm going to start here with something that I think is somewhat interesting here. Now, we'll get there in a second. Before we do that here, as we're in the midst of just everything selling off, a bit of a dumpster fire wherever you look. It's going to be a good time to perhaps pull back from the markets a little bit until this volatility dies down. Maybe do some work on your TA skills. Just a thought, right? So I thought it would be a decent time here, as I don't promote this as often as I probably should. Oh, just a reminder here, you can always join us for free here. Now, that gets you access to the White Belt course. Many of you have heard me talk about this many times, right? But there's 4.5 hours of content here. In fact, I'm spending the weekend freshening up some of the content that was just due for a refresh. So that'll have some new content, and I would perhaps speak it slightly differently or teach it slightly differently here. It's been 2 years since we did that. So just some updated content here for those of you that perhaps are considering stair-stepping into our Discord and our training here. Of course, the belt system's the bigger one here. Social gets you access to everything with the exception of the upper belts. So a lot of people will start with free, kind of get a feel for the vibe and the my style here, which if you've been watching me for a while, you probably have a decent idea. Then 49 gets you access to virtually everything, all the live streams. You can post content, your access to all the trading rooms. The only thing you don't have access to are the upper belts, right? That additional training. So that can be a common progression because you don't need to spend forever here. Then you can work back to social once you get as far as you'd like to go. Right now, some people stick and stay and want to go all the way, but that's up to the individual. I would tell you, blue purple, you're as well skilled as 99.9% of the Elliott Wave traders that you'll find anywhere online or anywhere across the markets, right? That's not easy to pass, right? Very deliberately so. Okay, guys, with that all said here, just a reminder here, this is the easy one. Okay, so let's come back here. Now, we looked at this a little bit last Friday, and this is, maybe it's a chart trick. I wouldn't interpret it that way because I think it's a representation of how precise the algorithms are, because one thing I can absolutely tell you, excuse me, this is not random. Only software is this precise. Just take a look at this now. This is Coinbase. I am in log scale here. And again, I won't spend a lot of time here because what we want to talk about here is what's on the hard right edge, where the opportunity is. Are we going lower? Is there support? Are we ever going to have an opportunity to buy it again? We'll get there in a second. But this is worth noting. If not influencing the decision over here, just the kind of thing to be looking for, the types of confluence points that we can find here. So again, this is just the wolf range, but I've added all the 25s here, and this is stunning if you actually really take the time to look through this. Let me back that up just a touch here. So the initial range is from our 18 low here up to this initial launch prior to the COVID dump. So this initial impulse here, which of course I maintain is a wave one. So wave one comes in right here. So all we're doing now is expanding 100% of that range up. Right? What do? We get the wave three high to the tick. Now, note within this, because I remember this well, because I was trading it, right? When we did this here, and we did this retrace here, and we double bottomed here at the 50, I was balls to the wall bullish here, and I think very aggressively on my video content saying this, time to buy, and we got this nice impulse that brought it up, and then COVID hit, right, and changed the complexion of pretty much the next. Not just with Bitcoin, but this being the COVID low. Well, okay, we don't need to review the history lesson there. So coming up here, though, look at this is just remarkable. So we come right back to the prior pivot, and no surprise here. There's a little pause here, but then if I go up exactly, well, this would be 25% of it. So I go up 25%. Now I'm at the 17 high, and of course. No surprise here. We pause, right? There's initial rejection there as all the shorts, right, are defending, right? So they pause, right? Now what comes right after that is this big impulsive thrust here. In fact, we're leaving behind imbalances here. We move so fast. But that's right at the halfway here. Then we go up another 25. Now we're running into all of this section here, which has become the support of these lows. We then up another 25. Here's the wave 3 of the internal pivot structure to the tick, down to the wave 4 within ticks, now up to the wave 5. I mean, where do we go for the W? right back to the tick. Now here we get a little slop at the top. Right, there's this push here, probably stop running or grabbing liquidity. And now we come all the way back. Now here we sit again. And so this was, we held here for a while here. This was kind of the mid zone here. I remember doing some videos a couple of weeks back talking about how important it was for if we were going to get out of here, right, we had to get on the other side of that, and down we go. You will note here on the daily here, I can't even remember if we talked about this last week. Right here is when the Vegas wave flipped, right? We went the Vegas wave below the 233, so I don't think there's any discussion about where the trend is. But there's the short-term trend, then there's the long-term trend. Well, you look at this chart, you'd be hard-pressed to be extremely bearish, giving that Elliott count, giving the 4-point channel. Now, I'm just kind of correcting from last week. I noticed, I caught this after the fact. When I switch over here to Binance, we're not quite to the edge here. It's only on Coinbase where we have that perfect 4-point channel, each getting ticked perfectly. Oh, and here we're not quite there, but if we're going to roll over again, that geometry might come back into play. But let's just finish up here before I move on. So here as we sit, right, and one of the things we had talked about was the potential for this to be a liquidity grab, right? So where are all the stops, right? The market moves, right, from liquidity to liquidity, right? There's no question there was a lot of liquidity here. Well, where's the liquidity now, right, underneath that stop? Right, so the buyers here, whether they're long-term or short-term, we don't have to wonder where the stops are, do we? Right, we can, probably, that's a good pivot to use right there. Maybe a little fat. Okay, so something like this put us in the 24 and change. I've got a target here, and we'll go through in the 20, well, we looked at it last week, so 24-ish down to 21, 23, kind of a sweet spot target. So if we're coming down to challenge some of this structure here, we're going to get outside of this. Well, right now is we are literally like clinging to the idea that we may have a low. That seems less likely given how sentiment is across the market. So everything is being sold. Right. If anything, it's, I think, more remarkable that Bitcoin has held as long as it has before rolling over. So if there's one more push down, well, then you would look at this chart and say, okay, well, it's not rocket science. If we're going to roll over again, well, actually, this may be more problematic. So let me hide that. We'll lose our symmetry. If we're going to roll over again, which is a very reasonable expectation, right? This looks very much like a 4. We'll look at the count here. So if we're coming down, well, now here, so we'd have this. Here's this little a fair value gap where we have an imbalance, right? So it leaves behind that little pocket here. So if I zoom in there. All right, so you see we went so fast, right? This is unfilled. It's an imbalance in the market, right? There's no one to take the other side of it until we get some sellers up here. So we just go right through it here. So that becomes kind of a magnet, almost like a gap that potentially gets filled back in. So that would be an area to consider. So if we're going to roll over again down here, that would be a reasonable target. Now, look, if we were to do that, and I don't know, we don't necessarily, right? I don't need to go that far, but if we're going to come down to something like this, well, now the 17 high starts to come into play, and just as it was resistance here, now, could it be support? Well, I mean, likely there will be some reaction there. So we shall see. We don't know. We don't have to come down here and get there, right? This could still be the low, right? If something, I'm not sure what it would be, but something to give us some legs here, I think just pretty much any Elliottician looking at the chart, likely anticipating, if nothing else, if not to complete an impulse down here, right? If this is a 3, we're going to go down for a 5, just to test the low. Nothing says we couldn't double bottom there. We could just off the geometry here, or something similar to what we just saw over here. Run the stops, right? Grab all that liquidity. Then what would you anticipate, right? So, okay, so with that said, I think this is just interesting. It'd be worthwhile to have, right? I mean, I keep these because I'm always looking for, okay, what's going on here? And I can tell you, as I said when I started, 0, and I mean 0 possibility these are coincidental. 0. Right, we human beings not that precise. Okay, so let me. What do I got? What do I got over here? Oh, that's the count here. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. Okay, so let's come back over here. Let's look at it over on Binance. where, when again, we touched on this a little bit last week here, we're just the channeling here is kind of intriguing. Again, here we're not quite to the lower edge here. So here you can see that if we were to roll over one more time, sweep the lows here, potential, right? Just potential. And as I outlined last week, I think this is a reasonable spot to be considering. You know, I don't know how aggressive you want to be. That's up to your own, you know, risk tolerance and what your appetite here and how long you're willing to park some money here, because you could be parking here for a while. So if this is going to roll over and we're going to come down here and again, sweep the lows, grab the liquidity, test the low, finish the impulse, right? Then, but you don't want to necessarily, well, I guess it depends on whether you're trading it or whether or not you're looking for an accumulation zone. I like to consider this I would cut it in thirds, right, and just accumulate down to the low here with the anticipation that this count, whenever we do find our low, we'll start to slowly work our way back and get a little 5 coming out of here, right, and then we got a big fat target up here. Now, it's tempting to look at this and. Here's what happens, right? And this is part of what makes trading so hard. So if again, I touched on this a little bit last week. If you were to bring this chart up in under any other circumstance on any other asset, and I put this in front of you and didn't know what it was, would you be bearish? I'm gonna just a guess, right? If you're a Well, shit, I shouldn't say that, right? But my guess is if I put 10 Elliotticians in front of this and I didn't tell them what it was, and we were just in a time vacuum, that well, how about more than half are going to call this, are going to look at this as a wave 4 going for a wave 5. Maybe not, right? Maybe it's just me. But here's what I think is often problematic here. So if you're studying Elliott Wave or technical analysis or however you want to approach the market, but particularly for an Elliott Wave trader, if you're looking at this count here, you've got to be salivating for the idea that you could buy it in there, where you would have all of this confluence coming together here. Well, let's just call it from 20 to 27 here. So now I know big range, right? So you got to be mindful of what your risk is here. I'd avoid leverage. Again, I'm not trying to give you financial advice. It's up to you as to what you can allocate here. And if you even want to, for all I know, you're shorting the hell out of it here. But the broader point I'm trying to make here is that when it's so easy to get influenced by everything that you hear and read around you, right? So it's impossible not to be, right? I mean, I'm vulnerable to it as well. So no matter what your source of financial news or information or context is, I mean, it's pretty much the sky is falling everywhere you look, and with good reason. Right? We're in circumstances we've never experienced before. There is no parallel. There's nothing. I mean, the talking heads will try and relate it to something previously, but we've never had this kind of perfect storm happening between the supply issues, the COVID-related issues, the war, the inflation, the Fed. We've never had this kind of complete clusterfuck of negativity affecting the market. So it's very, very, very hard to maintain any sort of bullish bias, because what happens to us is we look at this and we go, oh, well, fuck that. Everything's coming down. So despite the fact that there is a spectacular looking wave count staring in front of us, we have a tendency to just abandon it, right? Well, it's not going to work this time. Definitely not going to work this time. I mean, all that other training I did, everything else I've ever done, right? Well, but not here, not this time, because this time it's going to be very different. Well, now I just went through a litany of issues that are in the background to remind you that, well, okay, we have circumstances we haven't experienced before. But Elliott Wave is not trying to forecast the future, right? And that's, so many people, that's their issue with it. They're like, oh, well, you're trying to predict the future. Not really, right? I mean, in terms of anything that could possibly predict the future, I've yet to see anything better, right? If I had seen anything better, and there's not much I haven't seen in almost 30 years of doing this, if there was something I thought was better, That's what I'd be teaching. What Elliott Wave is doing is it's a representation of crowd dynamics, right? It's fear and greed, period. What does the crowd do, right? What does the crowd think right now, right? Everything is awful, and everything actually is awful. I mean, it's all relative, right? So, but certainly, we have huge negativity in the background, right? For the idea of any financial recovery here in the near term. But Bitcoin is kind of, well, right now, right, everything's being sold. But is Bitcoin potentially the kind of asset, the kind of holders, the kind of whales, the kind of human capital that's been invested in this ecosystem? Is this the kind of asset that could lead us out of this? Maybe. I mean, the stock market is not going to turn around for some time, right? We today, I guess we're officially in a bear market, but until the interest rate hiking cycle is a huge negative stocks, right? So there's no question about the fact that stocks are going to drift lower, if not much lower, for some time before there's a recovery. But Bitcoin is a different animal. Well, we shall see, but I just want to encourage you to not give up on all of the technical analysis you've been studying for however long you've been studying, and if you've been studying Elliott Wave, this is not the time to abandon. This is the time to lean in. I mean that quite sincerely, right? If this is going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the pocket here, and maybe we get perfect geometry, maybe we don't, but somewhere in that range, that is not the time to abandon your technical analysis skills. That's the time to lean into them. Now, you don't need to sit down here and buy in the box. That's how I'm approaching it. You can wait. You get a decent 5 out of this. It doesn't have to be big. It could be a diag, but it's got to be a 5, right? So give me something here to say, oh, okay, all right, I got to start on something. Or we've talked about the idea of a flip. Okay, so I've got a pivot. Right now, I'm just getting lower lows and lower highs. It's relentless, right? There's no break in it. So at the very least, let's get a higher high. Okay, then if we come back down here, maybe there's a flip here, and you could come out of a demand zone here. We'll look at that again in a second. But as we come down here, don't throw the TA skills out and just stare at the TV and listen to what they're saying. You're in charge of the decision making here. It's your TA. Screw everybody else, including me. You got to do what you're comfortable with. Me, I'm buying in here. You're not comfortable with it. I'm not here to give you advice. You got to do what you're comfortable with. But I would just encourage you that, my view is we're going to look back at this moment in time in history, a year, I don't know, 2, 3, and if you didn't take advantage of it here, or the opportunity, it may not be Bitcoin. There's things that have been sold off at levels we haven't seen for a long time. Right? This is what shit, Warren Buffett or blood in the streets. When everybody's panic selling, what are the strong hands doing? They're panic buying. They can't buy them fast enough, right? So I've just seen it so many times, and it's right. It's always different this time. Well, it'll be different this time. Oh, that Elliott shit is great for the last 100 years, but this time, no, fuck it. No, it's not going to work this time, right? It's not, right? Everything changes when I'm in the market, right? That's what we tend to tell ourselves. But see, now I'm in the market, so it's going to be different this time. Careful about giving into that, because I can absolutely promise you. And we may roll over here. I'm not saying this can't go down, right? That this can't go further, right? This may end up being the 5, and this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. We could be going much lower. That's not what I'm saying. That's just not how I'm approaching it. So you got to make your decision, right, as to what's right for you, because here's what I see. Right there. That's what I see. Now, again, I'm just free drawing there. Is my mind's eye filling that in? Yeah, absolutely it is. But that's based off of a shitload of time in the market. And I was trading in the .com crisis. I was trading in the financial crisis. I was trading, I was on here posting videos during the COVID crisis. See, if trading were easy, right? Everybody would already be short, and you just be following what you heard on Bloomberg or CNBC. Oh, well, everything's down, so short. Market's going down. Well, I better sell it. It's not how it works, guys. It's just not. Market's going down, you should be looking for the opportunity to find that location that's of interest to you and then let the market find some support and then take a swing. All right, there's enough on that. God, I went 20 minutes on that. I really didn't mean to go that long here, but let's, oh shit, what have I got coming back here? Oh, let's see if we can work through the count here. I'm really just focusing here on, this is our all-time high. I am in log, so I'm reluctantly acknowledging here that I may have to leave this as a 5. Well, we've been through this a number of times. Oh, and it can be counted a couple of different ways. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter how you get there, right? Right. At this point, it's an ABC, most likely. Well, pardon me. My view is an ABC. It could be a 1-2, right? And this could be the 1 of the 3, and we're going to 0, right? I mean, anything's possible here, but that's not what I see. Here's what I do think here we can say with certainty as Elliottians. If we look at the count coming down here, and this is, I've kind of retooled this here because I didn't like that diag here. This is the best case for our 2 here. Then the 1 this is anyone's guess as to what the hell is there. But I think the 3 here to the 4 and now coming down to the 5, because the one thing I'm fairly certain, we could get 200 Elliottians in a room here and no one's going to be bullish right there. Just based off the pattern as it sits right now. I mean, the subdivision here is anyone's guess. One thing I can be pretty certain of, it's not impulsive. It sure doesn't look impulsive. If anything, what does it look like, right? It just looks like a textbook 4, right? Consolidation, right? So what is the market down now? NQ 350, the Dow 500. Oh, the S&P 75 here, into a Friday. Well, Monday may be kind of ugly. So the path of least resistance is certainly lower. What's interesting here is that while we're sitting here, this is the prior low, right? This is the lows back here, right? What we made in June last year. Those are the lows. Now here we're wrestling with that. We're wrestling, right? So here's the swoop. Right, grab liquidity. Now there was an attempt, right? It was an attempt, but that, right, can't make. You cannot get anything impulsive in there. So whether the force here or there's some sort of additional chop or this maybe if there's another leg up here, this could actually be a triangle. Could we do it? A, B, C, D, E. We might be this would have to be the A, B, C, D. So you'd need one more leg up, and maybe you get your 4 here. You've got some sort of a triangle with this is the lows here, and you've got this coming down here. So might be right, but that would require this, right? We'd need to come up here and do this before we come down. So it almost doesn't matter. Somewhere in here, we're in 4 territory. And then if we kind of put that back together in terms of this being the 2, this being the 3, okay, well, let's just, again, standard operating, right? You wouldn't change it now. Oh, I got the wolf range on there. So let's go back to, let's just use measured move here. So here we've come to the 38. We are certainly in wave 4 range. If this is going to hold, it is correctly identified as the 2, and that's the 3. We can certainly get a clean impulse in here. All right, that's not too hard. The 2 is a little bit clustery, right? 5. Right, that's pretty decent. Now, are we going to do triangle of the internal and then triangle here? It kind of looks that way. We'll see if that holds as a triangle, right? That could just be some sort of W, X, Y, X. Fuck. I actually don't. I don't have a count there. I don't think you can get any count. You could have any conviction in there as it sits right now. Most likely, right? If we look at it, here's the 23 even. I've been working with James M. Remember? Oh, but by the way, our newest purple belt. Right? Give him some props. Coming down for something like this, right? So if that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Come down for the 5 here, and this 23 seems like a reasonable target. Let's see. We don't have the 4 pivot, but you could kind of approximate. Oh, pardon me. If that's the 1, and if that's it. Let's get you right on that pivot. Well, we'd have a pretty good target zone down here, right? So we'd have the algo target right? Because we had a 50 up there. We'd have the algo target. We'd have the 1618. A couple of different things here that just suggest that if this starts to roll and you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, something like that, come down here. Now we're in the 22, 23-ish range. We're right in the pocket there, looking for all that to come in. And then again, right, you don't necessarily, right, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. You just wait. Okay, what do I get here? Do I get a reaction? First, do I get a reaction, or does it just keep going? Then what do I get, right? Can I get a 5? And don't feel like, oh God, I gotta get the turn. Shit. I mean, you could do that and wait. Now, if you did, well, right, it would remain to be seen. If you got that, you know, now where you, right, you'd have to be all the way up here. So clearly, there's going to have to be some pretty substantial bullish activity. That's the first thing you got to clear. That's 32. Then you got to clear the golden zone. That's 36. Then you got to take that all the way to the high, right, in the next pivot. So a lot of work to do to get this thing to turn around. Right now, it's just... yeah, it's just like a freight train, right? Everything's being sold off. But again, I mean, you could do it over the weekend, but the fact that we're not selling off today is encouraging, right? It's not being just dumped, as so much is being just dumped. Too soon to make a call here, right? I mean, here, one thing, don't shy away from a short here. Now, I'm not one to short, right? But there's certainly an opportunity to be short, to work a short trade here. I mean, what are we at here, right? We're sitting at that support. Now, I say that, and I'm like, where do you not want to short it? All right, let's think about some of the things we've talked about, right? Where would it be dangerous, right? It's not that... I'm saying it couldn't happen, but this is the worst place to short it. Where did you want to short it? Well, last one was up here or up here, right? If you're going to go into a double bottom like this, you want to be short going into it, right? I've talked about this. I probably bored you guys to death, but I mean, I still see people do it all the time, right? So maybe you get a reaction there, because what do we know? What's here, right? Liquidity. Right, so you see, that's why you're always vulnerable. You can get spiked right there, right? Now, it still may go down, right? It still may go down, but you're putting yourself into that position where, are you going to be able to sell it again, right? Because you just took a hit here. And again, I don't know that that's coming. I'm just saying you're making yourself vulnerable to it, which is why you never, it's almost, you know, if you're a day trader, you know this. The one thing you can never do when the market does something like this is sell it. You almost immediately reflexively have to buy it, because the way the market moves, it'll go down like this, and then, right, it'll pop, right? Because these people will take profit. The other, people on the other side, there'll be defense, you know. And I'm talking about very, very short term, but it's almost reflexive that if you see a move like this, you cannot sell it. Well, I don't sell it. I should say it that way, right? Because it'll kick back in your face, right? So here's a good example, right? Just here, big down bar. All right, now big down bar. Right now, of course, it could do that. Right? How about this one? Right. So anytime. Oh, okay. It's going. I mean, I've shown hundreds and hundreds of examples of that. And again, I'm not saying that this couldn't free fall. I'm just saying that's the highest risk place to enter. Something to keep in mind. Okay. Oh, shit. Do I have anything else? Let's see what I got here. We've been through that. Oh, let's come over here. We can put the market structure on this. Some decent examples here. I've got kind of the combination. Well, here, let me hide this just for a second. Right. So this is me trying to get a count here prior to the video that made sense. Oh, James M and I kind of were back and forth. James, our newest purple belt, as I mentioned, we're back and forth on a couple of ideas here, but with this price action here, it's I just don't see anything that I'd be comfortable labeling other than the 4 is up here somewhere. I got a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 now. Looks like a 5 going in. So this would have to be a B or an X. So you get W. This would have to be A, B. Oh, Jesus. C, W, X, Y, X, Z, maybe. I mean, it's just, until there's more information here, here's what I see. Sideways, right? Just right around the volume profile. What are we doing here? it defies well, fuck, we can probably label it, but a count to have any conviction in. I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, we can probably throw some labels up there, but you know, all it's going to take is one rally or a sell-off here, and you know, you're probably likely changing it. So we are somewhere in here. We're gonna plant this for. Right now, that's the highest pivot. So okay, maybe. But what, you know, we got a diag going in here. This actually looks like a 5, right? I kind of modified it here. I had this as a 5. It's not a great finish, but the swing structure looks more like a 5. But you could do 1, 2, 3, 4. It ain't pretty no matter how you slice it. But this looks pretty clean. That looks like a 3. Now, do we get the 4, 5? And if so, what is it? What is it? Where does it fit? If this were the 4, right, and we were starting down on the 5, then you got to do some sort of, oh shit, you might be able to do it. Actually, maybe you can do that. Maybe you can get a flat in there. That's not a great 5, but the spirit of it is 5-ish, right? Maybe you can get some sort of, this being the C of this being a W, X, Y, A, B, C into a running flat. Now we come down. It's a guesstimate here. I would have no conviction in that, but maybe, right? If this is going to go now, so what would the implication be here? That we're going to go 4, 5. Now, what would that be? 1 of the 5, right? Most likely. 1 of the 5. So here, just looking at the count right there, right? So you know, potentially you get the 4 here. So do you want to be a seller here? It's not that it's not possible, but you're I mean, 1, 2, 3, how many other times? Right. Right. Oh, so then what you do, you talk yourself into it. You say, oh, well, it's been tested so many times, it'll definitely break this time. Really? It's been tested so many times, why would you assume it's going to break? Right? That's you, right, trying to forecast the market, right? So all I'm saying is let it retrace. Then you can come in here with a little house money, right? So you're not right there vulnerable to getting kicked out. So we shall see how that plays. All right, let's see. What else do I have? Anything? What we got? Oh, here's Elliott aside, right? Just going to market structure. Some pretty good examples here. Oh, what do I got? A 4-hour here? Well, you got kind of a cluster in here. This wasn't bad as we look at this retrace here. So we know this is not impulsive. This is trap shorts. This is kind of a nice little indicator here, which we'll go over at another time when we get doing more SMC stuff here. But what you can't see here is swing, right? We leave behind the supply zone. We come back into it. Down we go. And we leave a big on a 4-hour here. Here's the imbalance, right? So it's the distance from this low to the next high. When they're that far apart, the Sonar Labs software, right? So if you're interested in that, you want to trial it, test it, right? This is a nice way to approach the market. It only complements what we're doing with Elliott Wave, right? It fits in perfectly with it. You can trial that. That's in the link. That's in our link tree underneath. If you're interested in that, you get a 10% discount if you use our link. Right? Just a little reminder. But look at how nice this is, right? Come down back into the supply zone. Let's see. I've got this. Oh, here we'll just go down to an hourly. Let's look at it that way. Let those come up. Give it a second. There we go. All right. So here's that last trade. This is, and if you've watched the market structure training that I did, that's the trade that's so hard to take because the market's coming screaming back to you. There's the classic. See, here again, this seems to be a theme of late. Okay, so the market is ripping back, and you're like, hey, there's a supply zone here. I got to be, paying attention here for a potential selling opportunity. Well, even if you were uncomfortable here, you got another trip back in. Now, note, strong high, right? So the anticipation is it got a tick or two in front of it, but it didn't break it. Right, so you'd be all the more, okay, if I can take this trade right here, well, my stop's going to be on the other side of it. So, but look, what did you get there? 3-1 already? Well, I show you this stuff. But in the training, this is the one. See, it's coming back to you here. And what does the retail trader think here? What does he do here? He gets long. Oh, it's going up, right? Again, here we are again, right? Where's the worst possible place to enter the market? How'd that long work out? All right, so now same guy, same type of guy, is going to sell it here. Right. Does he know that there's a demand zone there? I'm going to guess not. Let's see. Would they anticipate, right, that there's going to be a 50 right in the middle of that? Maybe they draw that up. But you're still going to have a lot of people shorting it, right? Where's the liquidity? Right under that pivot, right? We know there's going to be liquidity here, right? Liquidity right into a demand zone. I guarantee you're going to have people sell that. Now, they may get away with it this time. They may, right? I'm not saying this is not going to break. You could certainly break, but I would never, only because I've done it so many times, I would never enter the market there. Where do you want to enter the market? Right here. So again, it's kind of a theme we've talked about before. You want to enter as close to where you're wrong as you possibly can. If you enter down here, so think about that for a second. Okay, if you enter here, where are you wrong? Here? Because you put a stop on it? No. Why couldn't it do that, right? It would just be an impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Where are you wrong here? All the way up here. That's where you're absolutely wrong. If you're taking this trade, where are you wrong? Right there. It seems like so ridiculously stupid. Like I shouldn't have to spend any time talking about that. Yet, thousands and thousands of traders will sell that. Thousands and thousands of traders will buy that. We need them to do it. Just don't be one of them. All right. I don't know if there's much else here to add. We're just in a giant holding pattern. Here it is. Here's the brave new coin, right, as we've come down here, and it's just off the 233. Now this lags, right? This is the weekly, and it lags a little bit. I won't get that last weekly bar here until the end of the day. But you can see here, once again, any other asset at any other time, right? Would you be assuming right now? Would you be assuming that this is now over? I mean, I suppose you could talk yourself into that. The geometry would be completely wrong, but it's 5 followed by a 3 in the middle of. I know it's different this time, or it's different when I'm in the market, right? That worked. The Elliott Wave will be effective every time, other than when you're in the market, right? That's what people think. It's funny how we respond that way. Why, right? And that's what makes Elliott Wave so powerful, because fear and greed are what Elliott Wave is measuring. What's happening right now? Fear. What do you want to do when everybody's fearful? Not be bold and brave or reckless, but identify what this is talking to you. What's market's talking to you? What do they tell you? Everybody's very fearful. Crypto's over. Time to start nibbling as soon as you start hear that. Right, pick your spot. Don't over leverage. Don't put more risk than you can afford to park, because you could park it there for a while. We don't know how long this is going to go before we're coming back even to break that B high. You could park it here for a while. But don't throw out everything you've just spent however long you've been studying technical analysis because you got scared. Just a suggestion. Scared money never profits. Okay, guys, I got to wrap it there. Not much that we can say here other than be patient. I guess that's the best advice. Good time to work on your TA skills, right? Maybe you don't feel like you have to be in the market and constantly getting into the market or out of the market. Sometimes just step back, let the volatility die down, work on your TA, come back refreshed, ready to go, refine some skill set. Get back in the game. Okay, guys, with that, I'll wrap it. Wish you a good Friday, and I'll be back on Monday. We'll do our regular live stream there, and new content coming on the white belt this weekend. Okay, guys, have a good one. Talk to you.